encourage your soul, enlighten your mind, and empower your faith. This is the Light Network. If you want to be a serious Bible student, a successful servant, and a powerful preacher, this is the podcast for you. Hello and welcome to Preachers in Training. My name is Robert Hatfield, and this is the podcast where we talk about all things preaching and ministry. On this episode, we're going to start something new here. I hope that we can repeat it several times in the future, the Lord willing. 3 preachers discuss. And I'm excited about this. We've done panel episodes before. Hopefully this will be a little different from that. They've gone well before in the past, but looking forward today to discussing 3 preachers discuss Sunday morning routines. How do you get ready for the task at hand when it's Sunday morning? 11th hour, you're getting ready, doing whatever you do. Here to help us discuss this topic today, joining us from North Charleston, South Carolina, is one Chance Hicks. Chance, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Robert. Thanks for having me.
You were just on not that long ago, right?
Yeah, not too long ago. I guess you were here and we were talking about college ministry, but glad to be back on today.
Yeah, excited to have you. And also joining us today is Hiram Kemp from Bowling Green, Kentucky, the Lehman Avenue congregation. How's it going, Hiram?
Hey, Robert. Glad to be on.
I like your layer there with your books and everything. I like Chance's layer with his family portrait. I mentioned the family portrait on the last episode you were on, so I got to mention it again. This is good. Hiram hosts God Magnified, Seeing God's Glory in Every Book of the Bible with Forrest Anna Maceris, Mondays at thelightnetwork.tv. And check out their new book, Last Will and Testament, a book-by-book survey of the New Covenant, thelightnetwork.tv/lastwill for more information about that. So we're talking Sunday routines. I'm interested to see. So this is an unscripted conversation, organic, as we say, and I'm interested to see how our routines are going to be similar and how they're going to be different. Chance, let's start with you. What time, when is Sunday starting for you, and what does that look like as you walk through the morning leading up to Bible class time and then worship time after that?
Right. Really, Sunday routine for me starts late Saturday night. When the kids are in bed, then I spend the next little while going over what will be Bible class, my notes, and then going over my sermons that Saturday evening. So I do my last minute preparation Saturday night instead of Sunday morning, as far as looking over everything. But then we start at the unusual hour of 9 a.m. for Bible class.
Which is early. That's an early time.
Which is an early start. So for me, that means I'm at the building at 8:30 for getting ready and greeting everybody as they come in. So that means wake up time is 6 o'clock on Sunday morning. So I can start showering and getting ready.
Yeah.
And then that includes when I'm in the process of getting ready. It's not going into the closet somewhere and having long sessions of prayer, but more like Nehemiah before the king, while he's actively doing other things.
Yes.
Prayers of about what's going to happen, asking God to be with me, and that what I say today would honor him and exalt him and hold him up. So those thoughts and prayers are going through my mind while I'm busy doing everything else that I need to do, ironing and
all the things,
trying to make myself look appropriate.
Yeah. So doing the Saturday night thing, I do a little at some point on Saturday. I'll look through the outline and that sort of thing. Usually I'll kind of review the slides and make sure those are where they need to be for the AV deacons to be able to pick them up and all of that. But I get up at 6 and then I do the whole getting ready thing. While I'm getting ready, I'm trying to go through my outline for the sermon in my mind. I can use more notes in Bible class. And right now I'm not teaching on Sunday mornings in Bible class, but I can use more notes in Bible class than I like to when I preach. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm running through the outline for the sermon in my mind. And that way I can know like where I really need to focus between like 7 and 8 on Sunday morning when I go back and review the notes a little bit. That's sort of the way I do that. Hiram, what about you? So you're Mr. Preach Without Notes. Chance, do you preach with notes or without notes?
For the most part, I'm preaching without notes. What I have is what's on the PowerPoint and what I've scribbled in the margin of my Bible.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to do too.
That's no notes. That's nothing.
Is that that counts?
That counts, man. That's
if Hiram says it counts, then it counts. All right, that's good. What you catch up, Hiram, where you are in this process over against what Chance and I've said?
My process is similar to Chance in that I start on Saturday night. About, I don't know, 9 o'clock when I put my kids down, I start to study a little bit. Now, where I'm different from what you all do is I don't really study as much on a Saturday or anything for Bible class. My Bible classes are sort of, hey, I prepare the material, I'm going to use notes or what's on my iPad. And so, I mean, I want to be familiar with it, but I don't really.
It's because he doesn't have to, Chance. Hiram doesn't have to study. That's what it is.
That's right. I just thumb through last will and it just comes to me. So.
There you go. Yes.
Now we book up there.
You too can have Hiram's notes if you order this book. No.
But my process, I start studying 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I will just typically study till midnight, and then I'll go to sleep. And then I get up on Sunday, and I've been doing this for a while now. I get up, I walk 2 miles, and I'll put my notes for my sermon on notes on my phone, and then I'll just walk 2 miles and pray and study my sermon a little bit and try to go over the rough patches, the places where I don't feel as sharp or confident, but I'll walk a mile and then walk a mile home. And then I start getting ready, helping the kids and all of that. And I'll still have my phone with me, and I'll just have it like on the ironing board there and glance at it and do some studying that way. And then once I get to the building, I'm good to go. Now, I was at South Florida Avenue for, I guess, almost more than 5 years. And there was Bible class first and then worship. And so I really had to get my sermon in because before, the sermon was Bible class. And so I wouldn't have much time to study in between. But now that I'm at Lehman, I've been here about 3 weeks. It's the worship services first and then the Bible classes afterwards. So I don't know if that will change much of my routine, but I won't have that Bible class situation first. I'll go right into the sermon, which I kind of prefer. I like that setup. So.
Yeah.
Study Saturday night, walk my 2 miles, study my lesson, study at the ironing board and that sort of thing, and then just get ready to go from there.
What time are you getting up to walk 2 miles before Bible class and worship?
I get up at 6. I get up at about 6. I'm normally walking by like 6:37. But again, I'm talking more from my South Florida Avenue deal. I don't know. May be. I would assume it'll be the same here. But yeah, I got up about 6:30. 6:30. I was walking by then.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. Now, and you mentioned this a minute ago, helping to get the kids ready and that sort of thing. We all have obviously kids at home, younger kids. I guess my children are the youngest of the three of us, but obviously, there's some, shall we say, opportunities there. You might call them challenges from time to time. If something can go wrong, it will. If there's a potential of being late, then you probably will be, or at least later than you want to be. Inevitably, if you need to print one last thing for your Bible class notes or something, you'll be late and then your printer won't work when you get to the church building or something like that. So we've mentioned sort of the silent prayers, the Nehemiah type prayers, the reviewing of the outlines and that sort of thing. Chance, you said you're trying to get to the church building by 8:30. Right, for the 9 a.m. service to start?
Yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah.
We try to be out of the door at 8:20 from the house.
Are you unlocking doors and that sort of thing, or does somebody else handle that? How's that work?
It's usually a toss-up because there's sometimes we have a couple of members who are already there by about 8:30 and are having the building open and things of that nature. But periodically I will beat them there, but not usually. There's usually a handful of people there before I get there.
Yeah. All right. Hiram, how about you? You doing any unlocking or South Florida Avenue days doing any unlocking or?
No, not here, not at Lehman. I normally get to the church building about 30 minutes before things start, but typically
Yeah.
somebody's already here. And so at that point, I'm just greeting people and getting to know them and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So kind of the same for us. We start at 9:30. We've got a 20-minute drive from our house to the church building. So, we try and get out the door in time to where we can be here right by around 9 o'clock. And that usually works pretty well. Sunday mornings too, people aren't always as early as they might be for an evening service. So, it's a little easier to get in and get settled and all that stuff too. Slides and stuff like that. Are you having to prep those? You sort of make sure that those are ready to go on Sunday morning? Do you do that Thursday or Friday before you head out? How does that stuff go?
Yeah, my goal is like by the end of the day, Thursday, I usually try to take a Friday off as much as I can, but usually by the end of the day, Thursday, I try to have all of my slides put together and uploaded to Dropbox for the guys in the sound room. And every once in a while, I'll double check those on Saturday. I'm like, did I upload those? So I'll go and double check and just kind of glance back through them Saturday night as I'm reviewing my sermon.
Mm-hmm. Do you do slides for every presentation, Chance, typically speaking? I mean, more often than
yes,
not?
Typically.
Yeah, I do too. Hiram, how about you? You do slides, and what's your process there?
Yeah, I do slides typically for every sermon. And I try to have my slides done by Friday, but sometimes I'm doing my PowerPoint Saturday, which I view as just more study or review. And so I'll do them then. And I'll typically try to look at them Sunday morning before I get up, just because it's inevitable that I spelled something wrong or I left off a letter or I did something like that. And as much as I hate that, it just happens sometimes. So I try to get them done Friday at the latest on Saturday, but I will flip through my slides one more time, like right before I preach, just to make sure everything aligns and I didn't leave anything out, or that everything is how it should be for the presentation.
Mm-hmm. I probably tend to rely. I mean, we've got a little monitor on the back wall that shows me what's on the screen behind me while I'm preaching, and then I'll use that for prompts, right, with my outline and stuff. I mean, Hiram, do you look at that at all? I mean, obviously, so you're in sync when you're clicking, right? You got to make sure the right thing's on the screen. But from the without notes perspective, I mean, are you using that for prompts? Do you rely on that? I mean, how does that work for you?
Yeah, I'll use it for what I normally have on a slide is my point, the next point, and just the verse that goes along with it. But then there are times when certain points, the sub points may be list of things that I'm mentioning, and I will turn and look at those things and just make sure that, hey, here's the next one. And sometimes I'll have them where they just come in and sync one at a time. And so I'll use it for that sort of thing. But the way I typically do my PowerPoint is it's just the point that I'm making, like point one, here's what it is, here's the verse, and maybe a picture that tries to capture that idea. And so that'll help me to get my point and thought together. But I don't typically have a lot of notes or really anything on there unless I have like, hey, study the Bible is point one. And then under that point, it's how to study or ways to get into the Word of God with other supporting verses. So that's typically what my PowerPoint consists of. But I have it up there for the people, but also for the congregation, but also for me to recall certain points. And it'll help me to emphasize what I need to say.
Yeah. Chance, how about you? Does that pretty much mirror what you're using your PowerPoints for? I mean,
yeah, for the most part. And with the setup as it is at North Charleston, like, you have a projector that displays on the back wall, so you can see what everybody else is seeing. But yeah, for the most part, mine are pretty much like Hiram's. It's got a main point or main thought on each slide, and then the supporting references. And so some of those, they are for people to take notes, but those references are up there for me too, to remind me of what all is a part of this point that I'm making, and kind of keeps a map of where I'm headed.
Yeah, I got you. It's good for prompts, right? I mean, by the time you studied, throughout the week, and then that, Saturday, whatever you looked over on Sunday, like Hiram said, or whatever, I mean, that's sufficient to prompt you in where you're going. Plus, your notes in your Bible or whatever too. Breakfast. All right. We're talking about Sunday morning routines here. Are you breakfast people? Do you eat breakfast throughout the week? Do you eat breakfast on Sunday mornings? The people need to know this.
I do not eat breakfast on Sunday or
Really?
usually throughout the week.
Okay.
My breakfast usually is I grab a bottle of water and an energy squirt into it on my way out the door during the week, and I usually do the same on Sunday morning. So when I get up and I'm get out of the shower, start getting ready, I'll go grab a bottle of water, a couple of Mio energy squirts into it, and that will suffice till I can
Now,
get.
I'm over here eating peanut butter M&Ms before we started the podcast, and you're over here energy squirting in the morning. So that's great. Hiram, how about you, Mr. Walk of Fame, 2 miles in on Sunday mornings? What do you
I don't. I typically eat breakfast, maybe something small throughout the week, but on Sunday morning, I don't. On Sunday morning, I just will have water or something to drink, and then I eat after normally, but I typically don't eat on Sunday morning. And I don't know if that's by design as much as it's just a time factor. I don't normally have time, and just I'm getting the kids ready and trying to get there, and so.
I got you. What are the things that so we've said, obviously you've got your outline and I guess your computer or something. What are the things you bring home with you from the office that you have to have? Like if you leave Thursday or Friday, it's like, I got to have this with me, so that I can do what I need to do to get ready for Sunday. I mean, what are those things that you're putting in your bag and bringing home? Or no, you're not getting to the office earlier than necessary because we just talked about our routine. So yeah, what are you taking home to make sure you got to have with you?
So what I'll do is when I get my sermons written and prepared for what I'm going to be studying, I used to print them off and then I would carry all that paper around with me. But recently I got a Kindle Paperwhite. And so now I just email everything to my Kindle. And so that has my Bible class notes on there, has my sermon outlines and sermon material on there. So usually by the end of the week, I just need to make sure I have my computer and take that Kindle home with me. That lets me review everything I need.
That's really nice. Isn't it great? Like I remember when I hadn't been preaching for that long, but like when I first started preaching, right, the iPad wasn't really a thing. I mean, I guess there were nooks and stuff, but I don't know. In my mind, that stuff wasn't really taken off yet, and I didn't really see how practically that would work. And so, I'm running around with notebooks and at the very least, a folded piece of paper in the front cover of the Bible. And now it's so different. It's pretty cool.
Yes.
Hiram, how about you?
I'm not as tech savvy as you two guys, but I write my sermons in Word, but I don't have Word on my phone. So like I was saying, I get my sermon done and then I just send it as an attachment to the notes on my iPhone. And as long as I've got that and or my tablet, then I'm pretty much good to go. So I can study on my phone some Friday night if I want, or Saturday or whatever. But as long as I've got my phone, if we go out somewhere Saturday and I've got some downtime, I can just tap on that and just kind of go over some things. So I don't really have to bring much home if I'm done working on my sermon as far as getting done.
How detailed are y'all's notes? So what kind of outline do you put together? Do you just export the PowerPoint slides? I mean, because Hiram, you're saying you're putting this on the notes app on your phone, and it's like, maybe I'm just spoiled, but I mean, I've got a bigger screen phone, but still it's like, it's unpleasant to do just things I don't absolutely have to do on here. It's like, Hiram, what kind of notes are you? I mean, what are you working with there?
You're talking about like outline style, like what does it look like?
Yeah. Like what's on your phone that you're flipping through Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah, it's my outline, but my outline for my sermons are what I would call a manuscript outline. It's pretty detailed. It's pretty lengthy.
Really?
Yeah, it's very lengthy. And so, but I guess it's just my routine. I'm so used to it now. It doesn't really bother me as much, but I've got several pages of notes that I'm going through. So I pretty much write out what I'm going to say in outline form, but it's pretty extensive. And so I don't have the whittled down model. I know some guys start there and then they break it down to a smaller outline. When I write the sermon, I write it in what I would consider to be manuscript outline form. and I just keep it that way, and I study it that way throughout the week. Whenever I get done, normally Thursday or Friday or whatever, and that's what's on my phone. But I can just scroll through it, and I'm familiar enough with it to where I know at a certain point I don't have to focus on the introduction as much as I need to give attention to point 2 or whatever. But it can be a 10 to 12 page. I mean, it's a pretty lengthy deal the way I write them. I don't know any other way to do it at this point for me.
Yeah. So then that's fascinating. And this isn't an outline show, but I mean, it's about to be. So like, and I'm the host and I can do that. No. So tell me about that. I mean, does that help you in memorization? Do you feel a pressure? And you've been doing this for so long, I'm sure you don't maybe think about it. Do you feel a pressure to say it exactly like you wrote it, in preparation? I mean, how does that work?
I used to, but not now. I used to want to be so precise, but then I realized, hey, I'm going to forget some things and some wording. But my point in doing that, I heard a man say it this way: read yourself full, write yourself clear, think yourself empty, and all of that stuff. Writing out my sermon the way that I do keeps me from searching for words when it comes time to preach. So at least I know the way I crafted it and so it's kind of like I've already preached through it as I've written it out word for word, or at least in some detail. And so when I get up to preach it, I've got the phrases and stuff already. I hope to recall some of it, but as long as I strike within the neighborhood of what I've written, then I'm fine with that. But I know that I don't get it right all the time, exactly the way that I wrote it. But I think it helps me at least in memorization, because I've thought it out and written it out as clearly as I know how to communicate it. And then in the preaching moment too, I think the flexibility on the fly if I need to shave off some things or to rework some things, but the thoughts and the words and stuff are already there. And so it just helps me to do that. I've tried it on occasion, maybe a time or two, like in Bible class, for example, to have little bullets and stuff like that, but I'm just not good on my feet. Like the words just don't come to me. If I did a little 1-page outline, I just am not that. I've got to think it through and write it out and get it on paper. So
I never would have guessed that. Okay. By the way, I'm now calling this 3 Preachers Discuss Sunday Morning Routine and Their Outlines. Okay. So
you can do that. You're the host, man.
We can do that.
You just keep expanding that title as much as you need to.
So, Chance, let's talk about your outlines a minute. What kind of outlines are you working with that you're reviewing, on the Kindle Paperwhite?
My outline sounds a lot like Hiram's.
Really?
It is.
Y'all are both manuscriptors.
Full sentence manuscript. So when I'm writing, it will end up being right at 4 pages, but it will be margin like 1/2 inch.
Okay.
And it is in the neighborhood of 3,500 to 4,000 words.
Wow.
In that manuscript.
Yeah.
But by the time, so that's what I will write. That's what I'll send to my Kindle, and that's what I'm reading through and reviewing and going over. For the most part, I'm not anymore concerned about saying it just exactly word for word what's on the paper. But if there are certain things that I've written a certain way that when I'm studying through it, if it's like that, I'm like, I want to make sure when I get to this point that I say it this way, because it communicates it in a concise way. And I want to make sure that this is the point I'm trying to communicate. So I will make sure that I learn those lines exactly like that. But like Hiram said, it isn't always delivered in the exact same form it's on the paper. There are times where I'm preaching and I skip over a spot accidentally, and I'm like, oh, I forgot I was going to mention that. And so it comes into the sermon at a different place than it was in the manuscript, but it gets.
Yeah. So I do full sentence outlines, but they're not manuscript outlines. So it's full sentence thoughts, and I try and get it down to 1/2 a page. I do landscape, 8.5 by 11 landscape. So it's the wide way, 1/2 of that. And introduction to conclusion is all on that 1/2 of a page. And that way I'm going to rely on the notes in my Bible and the PowerPoint for prompts. But if something terrible happens to my brain mid-sermon, I have it printed off in the front cover of my Bible, and I can pull it out if I need to, which is handy. Or if it's kind of a complicated outline, or like you guys said, a lot of times what I'll use that outline for is I've had the luxury of concisely and clearly putting into words a concept that I want to communicate and in just the right terms. And so I'll have that in the outline, and I may, if I'm preaching a text, which I most often do, I may sort of stick that in half of my Bible, and the way I hold my Bible lets me see the text on one side of the opening, but have the outline on the other side. But it's right up against the fold of my Bible, so people don't really realize that it's there. And I don't really need it all that much either. But that helps if I need to refer to that, and I can kind of look down. It looks like I'm reading my Bible or something instead of looking at notes. And most of the time I'm wandering around. I'm not behind the pulpit. Okay, that's interesting. I would imagine that manuscripting would also help, like when you need to revisit those studies later on. I mean, even if not that you're necessarily even recycling that content or repreaching it, though I don't have any problem with that either necessarily. But when you go back to it, you sort of are immediately immersed right into what you were thinking at that time. Is that an advantage?
That's what made me go to this process, I think.
Yeah.
When I started preaching in 2016, I wasn't doing it like this. Now I was doing something similar, but they would just be like one sentence or one phrase to kind of get me to where I want it to be, or I'd have like illustration about blank and just put it there. But when I needed to revisit things on occasion, I could kind of get in the neighborhood of what I was saying before, but I just couldn't get back there. So this does help me to get right back to where I was if I want to repreach something, or maybe not even repreach it, but to use some of the guts of that outline and use it for something else. But all of the thoughts and ideas are there. And if something comes up about even something that I said, I can go back and say, that was nowhere near being included in the outline, or here's what I was trying to convey. So yeah. That helps me at least.
Does it make it easier if you ever need to, turn some of that into blog post, bulletin article, anything like that? I mean, are there advantages there for syndication, for example? I'm a big fan of syndication. I mean, have you used it for that, either of you? No?
I have. Okay. Yeah, I have. I've done it both ways, but I may, just because of the nature of blogging and stuff, like the way I would word and title things to appeal to a blog wouldn't necessarily be the same for a sermon, but the same thoughts are there, or at least similar ideas. And so, I have done some of that, or even bulletin things where, hey, here's the bulletin article, here are some of the points, and it's kind of prep work for what I'm going to say. And it just helps. Now, when I'm writing my outline for my sermon, and because it's in manuscript form, I'm breaking all kind of grammatical rules and outline rules, and I've got 4 and 5 sentences under A and stuff like that. So because I'm the only one that's going to look at this, I can personalize it. But if I have it for something else, like an article that I've written or I plan to use it later, then I'll, massage it and make it work for that. But with the outline, totally just mine, and I can do what I want with it. But writing it out does help for potential use in other areas. Yeah.
Is that a chance? I mean, I saw you were cracking up over there when Hiram said he breaks all the grammatical rules.
It sounds kind of like mine. Roman numeral 1, the point may be the presence of the wicked, but then before I ever get to anything under that, I may have a paragraph right there beside.
That's right.
Yeah.
One,
Okay.
Everything I want to say about it before I actually talk about it.
No, I couldn't handle that. I'm sorry.
I'll send you one if you want to see it, Robert.
No, I don't know.
Yes, you can, Robert.
I might need to scratch out my eyes. I'm not sure. Okay.
I try not to misspell words, so.
Yeah. Okay. Again, as long as you can decipher it, what they say, if the first letter and the last letter is right, then it doesn't matter what's in between. You can figure it out. Yeah. That's good. Wow. Okay. I am just, this was not a revelation I was expecting in today's episode. I'm just saying. Good stuff. Sunday morning routines. All right. We've talked about the outlines. Do you get nervous still? And if so, is it a weekly thing? Is it certain topics? Is it certain circumstances? I mean, Chance, do you still get nervous, or how does that compare or differ from the early days of getting nervous?
Yeah, I still get nervous to some extent, not nearly as much as I did in the early days. And being now we've been at North Charleston for almost 2 years. So I feel pretty comfortable going into the church building and what's going to happen on Sundays. Pretty routine, but an opportunity to be somewhere else, particularly at a congregation that I've never spoken at before, don't really know anybody, can bring up those early year feelings of nerves and nervousness, even if it's a sermon I've preached before or one I've preached recently at North Charleston that I'm also preaching at another congregation. Even though I know the material, I'm confident in what I'm going to deliver, there's still some nerves that can come up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hiram, how about you? Nerves? You still get nervous?
The exact opposite of Chance. Like when I go to places, I'm not nervous at all, but I am terrified every Sunday at my home congregation. I just
really.
I'm just and like if I preached the material before, I'm good to go. I'm content with that. But at home, I'm nervous every time. I mean, and I guess there are different nerves, not like my first time ever preaching type nerves, but every Sunday I just have this just crazy, I don't know, just pit in my stomach before I preach at my home congregation. But when I'm somewhere else preaching, I'm not nervous at all. If I don't know the people, I'm not nervous one bit. Lectureship, gospel meeting, seminar, that doesn't bother me. But when I'm at home at Lehman, or when I was at Southport Avenue, same thing there. I just get terribly nervous all the time. I don't know why.
Hiram's like, I'm in and out. I don't have to see you people again. I'm out. Hey.
So whenever I mess up, I'll point at the preacher. He'll fix it.
Nerves in my early years was like getting up and being like absolutely sick. And
really?
Yeah. And I have thankfully grown through that and overcome that. But yeah.
How long? I mean, I'm kind of the same way. Certain weeks it's different than other weeks. Part of it is it sort of depends on how the previous Monday through Saturday went to how I'm feeling on Sunday. Sometimes my nerves are related to the content of what I'm going to say or exactly how it's going to be received, which I generally know, but still. Sometimes my nerves are related to, I know that this is going on in someone's life and I'm going to get up and preach, and I'm really sensitive that, I say something that might be helpful, or from the opposite perspective, I don't want to say something that might make them hurt even more. And then sometimes I don't know. It's just it's just sort of random. It's just kind of how I'm feeling that week. I guess I'm all over the place on the nerve spectrum. How long do the nerves last? I mean, at what point? What is it? Once you get up there, once you get through your introduction, are you nervous from, Chance, you said a minute ago, it was like from the early on, it was when you first woke up until, I mean, how far reaching into the Sunday morning are the nerves for you guys?
They usually, I guess to some extent, are gone, or maybe I'm just not paying attention to them as I start teaching class. So I guess my mind gets engaged in what I've been preparing for, and it focuses on drawing up those notes and working through that teaching. And so it's at least distracted from the nerves. If they're still there, they just they're not at center stage anymore.
Yeah. I'm with you. I understand. Yeah. Hiram, how about you? How long do the nerves hang on?
They typically last for me up until the introduction. Once I get through the introduction, once I start talking, then I'm at ease at that point. But yeah, that's typically as long as they'll last. Once I get into my sermon and once I kind of can settle myself through talking, getting the words out, then I'm pretty much at ease.
Yeah. There are some times when I'm with you, I get through Bible class, I'm all right. And then there are other times when I'm kind of praying a silent prayer during the song right before I have to stand up to speak. It's something to the effect of, just help me get through this and help me be effective in what I'm going to do and say. And that differs sometimes. Worship helps me to calm my nerves a little bit and to refocus. It's not about the presentation. It's not about the technical glitches that may or may not go wrong. It's not about, whatever. It's just about him, and he can use it. And I found that a lot of the times when I step down, and feel like, well, that didn't go well. Those are that was often the ones that resonated with people the most, or resonated with people who aren't always vocal about sermon feedback, and that sort of thing. And so that reminds me that I'm just the vessel. And
Yep.
that's always helpful.
Absolutely. And sometimes the nerves don't start until like the second verse of the song before the lesson. And I'm getting ready to get up there. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I start trying to think through my sermon some, and I'm like, I don't remember what I was going to say on point number 2. And so that's when they start kicking in.
What do you frantically open your device and try and find the spot, or do you just hope it comes to you when you get in the flow of it? What do you do?
Okay. Frantically open the device, Robert. I just take one last glance at the iPad to make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah.
Depends on what point of the song it is and how much time you have left.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't matter, Chance. If it's the last verse, you just do this and ask for another stanza.
Oh, wow. See, so you got your song leaders trained. You give the cue, and they're like backing up the paperless hymnal or something, right? Oh, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Hey, usually at this point, I'd say that we're going to have some parting words here in just a moment. I don't really know what kind of parting words we're going to have for an episode like this, but be thinking for a minute. If there's something you want to encourage the guys who are listening to this, I mean, bless their hearts, they've made it through about 35 minutes of this. What wisdom and stuff can we impart to these guys for the Sunday morning routines and maybe even their outlines, since that's where we've been today. Let me remind all of you who are listening that Preachers in Training is a part of The Light Network, a network of Christian podcasts designed to encourage your soul, enlighten your mind, and empower your faith. If you haven't checked out the archived episodes of this podcast, I encourage you to do that and go check out the other podcasts that some of them have run their course. They're in archive mode. Others of them, good majority of them, continue to release once a week on their respective weekdays. Check them out, thelightnetwork.tv. I'd love to hear from you. Most of our episodes are listener requested episodes, and the way that you can get in touch with me is twofold. Number one, by email, preachers@thelightnetwork.tv. That comes directly to me. Love to hear from you. Love to hear your feedback. And then also in our Facebook group, search for Preachers in Training. You know this by now. It's a closed group, but if you want to be a part of it, ask to be a part of it. Check it periodically to see who wants to come in, and we try and keep our conversations focused on the topic of this podcast, but it enables us to do some other things. Sometimes we have polls. Sometimes people ask for book recommendations. We were talking about office spaces not that long ago. That was kind of neat. Don't forget, if you enjoy the podcast, to subscribe in your favorite podcast app or on YouTube if you prefer the video version, so that you can see all of our smiling faces. Brand new episodes of Preachers in Training. Chance, what are you doing? He's shaking his head over there. Brand new episodes of Preachers in Training release every Thursday from thelightnetwork.tv and our podcast partners. We've been discussing Sunday morning routines and also our outlines. That was an unexpected blessing that came up in the midst of, this is kind of like our text message chain that we have. Who knows what's going to be said at any given point in time. Parting words, final exhortations. Chance, what do you want to tell guys as they're thinking through their Sunday morning routines?
Well, I'm not getting paid for this plug, but part of my Sunday morning routine that we haven't talked about is that usually while Kelly and I are in the room and getting ready, we listen to Hiram and Forrest and God Magnified.
Oh, so nice.
Listening through someone else teaching and preaching kind of helps get your mind in the right place for what you're about to do too. So Hiram, whether he knows it or not, is a part of our Sunday morning routine in the Hicks house.
That's awesome. That's good stuff. And that's a good way too. I mean, for most of us, as we are the ones who are going to be teaching the Bible class and all that, it's a good way for us to be sort of nourished and fed. I mean, aside from the joy of teaching and what we've learned from that, and the conversation too, but still, it's good stuff. Hiram, what do you say?
Just buy last will. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
No, but seriously, I would go in a different direction from Chance. But I would say this to guys that preach and teach, based on what we've said today, it's just that. It's your routine. Like, do what works for you. And that goes for the outline, whether you manuscript, whether you just, I know some guys that preach without notes and they don't even write an outline or anything, but whatever works for you. And like you were saying, Robert, God can use all of it. So don't obsess over perfection. We want to do our best. We want to represent God well, but whatever you do, you may not even have a routine. It may be sporadic or whatever you do week to week, but just make sure you can do it your way. There are no rules for this. However you craft sermons or PowerPoints or lack thereof, like that's what makes preaching great. God can use all of us in our different ways and mechanisms and our different methods, and he gets all the glory. So I would just encourage guys to, whatever works for you, keep doing it. Whatever you would like to amend or change, that's fine too. But just make your outline, your routine, your preparation and all that. Your family's different. Your congregational situation is probably different. Just make it your routine and let God use it.
Wow. Yep. Good stuff. If you find yourself in Bowling Green, Kentucky, stop by Lehman Avenue, where chances are either Hiram Kemp or Neil Pollard will be preaching on any given service. I know they'd be glad to have you. And if you find yourself in Charleston, South Carolina, head up to North Charleston and see the good folks there. Chances are that Chance will be preaching when you head over there. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you both.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Robert.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And we want to thank you for being a part of this episode today of Preachers in Training. Until next time, I'm Robert Hatfield. Let's go preach the word.